Hi, welcome to another video in the series of the vintage bicycle restoration, where I'm synchronizing and translating the videos that I had recorded in my native originally. So this is the second part in the timeline where I'm preparing the frame after it's been painted, and I am yet to translate the video about the disassembly of the old vintage bicycle. So let's continue with this one, and then I will do the first video in the series timeline and the last that I'm uploading, so doing it a bit backwards. So here it is. I will be fast forwarding the parts that are not really relevant, so to speak, to make it not last for too long. And here I'm joking about the time it took for the videos to upload. Many people commented after I had uploaded the first video in the channel on my native, when is the continuation coming, and so on. And so I said, if I say I'll do something, I'll do it. You don't have to remind me every 6 months. Anyway, so here we have a paint that was sanded and powder coated. We did not want to record that. I think it would have been too long and too meditative. Maybe a separate topic for a different video series about painting and preparation. And what I regret for not having been able to record was installing the adapter, because this used the old that Toon or Thompson, whatever it's called, the bottom bracket with old style press fit, and we installed an adapter. I hope you can see the mouse. We pressed it inside the frame, and that has threads for the British bottom bracket standard, which is easy to find parts for in decent quality. So we wanted to make the bicycle be rideable, and I also did not record widening of the dropouts. I think that I have a video about how to widen dropouts in my native, and I also think I mention and show and explain the basic principles in a video in English that's called Vintage Bicycle Frames with Modern Parts. I have an article called like that also on my website, bike.bikegremlin.com, so you can use a bit of Google or search on my website or on my YouTube channel and find those videos. And I will also include a link to a page or thread on BikeGremlin.net forum, where all the videos in the series, along with additional material and those mentioned links, are all listed, so that it can help you to go to just one place and find the needed resources for such projects. So here the first thing, I did not use old cups both for the headset and for the bottom bracket to protect the threads and everything from powder coating. There are pros and cons to that approach, but in this case I wanted to just use the thread chasers and a bit of sanding to remove the paint where it's extra, and keep it in all the other nooks and crannies where it's actually protective and helpful. So that system does have the downside that you need to do a bit of sanding, like here for the inner part where the quill stand will go. I did not record that, how I do the sanding. It would have been too long, too meditative. But here I wanted to show how to chase and phase the bottom bracket. Here I have a Unior tools for bicycle frame. They are modular. You can buy spare cutters, spare handles, these spare mounts, everything you can buy separately in case something gets damaged or lost or just worn out. So that's why I went with those tools. I have an article about those tools on my website. I'll also put it in that forum thread with all the resources. If I don't forget, remind me please. And that's why I opted for those, and also because Unior has great support for my country, for Serbia, while other manufacturers like Park Tools, to name one, it's impossible to get them locally at remotely normal prices, and so that's a big downside, and one of the reasons why I went with Unior for a huge percentage of my bicycle specific tools. And here I'm just trying to put a normal cup inside to see if it goes smoothly, but it doesn't. These adapters that we installed were not machined to very precise tolerances, and we're working with what we have, of course. And also, when you're pressing them in, sometimes the material will deform to a degree. Sometimes you need to use some heat, some hammer, and so on. And so I will still need to chase the threads. Here I'm checking and it's not going very smoothly. And so I decided, okay, I will go with the opposite side first to try to thread it in and use as a guide for the right hand side. So the left hand side is going smoothly by hand, and then I can use adapters as they fit into each other, to use the left one as a guide for the right one, to make sure that the threads are chased in a concentric way, so they are both in line, and when I install the cartridge bottom bracket later on, it will not have any problems. And so the basic principle is that I do 1 or 2 turns to chase the threads, and then do half a turn back to make all that excess from cutting come out, so to sort of free my tool from all the excess. Of course, the left hand is going very smoothly here. I don't feel any resistance or any cutting, so I didn't go back and forth too much needlessly. But for the right hand, it did some cutting, and so with that one I needed to go a bit back and forth at the beginning, and then it went more or less smoothly to a certain degree. And then when I feel it starting to get some resistance, I would go back to break off all that residue. And here what I did was unscrew it by a few turns, so that I can screw in the left hand side one to make sure that it's not pressing against the right hand side tool. So that leaves me enough place to work easily, and if I feel any resistance, suddenly it will be because I've reached the end of the threads as they were cut into that adapter. I don't need to be threaded more than halfway through, even less than that is needed for the cups to screw in. So I did that with the left one, and I am doing this with the same with the right one. Here I've started cutting. I'm feeling some resistance again, but it's relatively easily going. And that's the basic principle. What I did just to make sure that all the imperfect threads are aligned and sorted out, and most problems were at the very start of the right hand side. So now I remove the handles to not have the excess weight cause the tools to drop out of the last line of thread and make it damaged. So I'm just using gently my hands, and both tools have that insert in the middle, so they're holding each other in place, and I'm trying to put some leverage from the bottom to make them as light as possible and remove them smoothly without damaging the last thread. And here now I need to clean it up, all that excess, and it's best to use the compressed air for that, of course. If not, you can just blow or use some spray for cleaning and similar. And now I need to face the head, the start of the bottom bracket, but because this is an insert inserted into an old style frame, the old style frame had 70 millimeters width of the bottom bracket shell, and the insert is 68 millimeters for the standard road bottom brackets, and many mountain bikes also have that, the steel ones, that width. Some have the wider 73 millimeter width. But so here I will not be chasing the left hand side, because there the cup does not have the closed end. It does not rest against the face, because we will using the square taper cups. If we were going with the Holotech, then I would have needed to press that insert deeper in and then remove material from both sides of the frame on the outside. But this was an old vintage bicycle that would be using the square taper bottom bracket that we can find at normal decent prices and in the way that we need. So here I will not be bothering with chasing the left hand side of the frame, just the right hand side, not chasing but facing the frame. You will see what I'm doing in a second. Here I'm just screwing in the guides for the tool, and those guides are needed to make sure that the tool goes at exactly parallel with the threads, so that when you screw in the bottom bracket and it presses against the frame, it is flush and there's no excess load put on the bearings because the cup is sitting at an angle relative to the axle. So you want both sides to be parallel. I'm not sure if I've explained this properly now. I'm very sorry, but this is how the tool is used. You slide these parts in to create some preload. You screw it in, and then I can start cutting the threads. Add some oil, of course, to make it run smoother, and so I can face the thread to make sure that it's parallel. I will demonstrate what I mean just in a few minutes on this video. I did try to show it and demonstrate it. Okay, so here is the result of the start. There are about 3/4 of the turn have been of the whole circle have been faced. Material has been cut, and it looks blurry, but when you put your finger, it feels smooth, and the cup can sit flush on that with no problems. And if I were looking to install the cups in a normal frame, I would have stopped here. However, I didn't, for reasons that I'll explain in a minute. But here, let's just first explain what I'm doing. So the basic idea is that okay, so what I did here, I would have stopped if this were normal frame, but because this frame is wider than it needs to be, it's 70 millimeters wide, I had no problems with cutting further material to make it be a bit more to the inside, so that when I install the cups, they are more parallel. I've removed almost 1 millimeter of the material because I know that the left hand side cup will have enough room. I've chased the threads deep enough to keep it all centered, and I wanted to have the right hand side cup move a bit further to the right hand side, to have them both to have both cranks symmetrical when I'm mounting it later on. And here I'm explaining the principle of why facing this is important in general. I will show it with the tool. Here, this is the idea. When I'm installing the axle, this is like the axle, that black part. I want the head of the cup, which is here shown by that thing that's silver that says Unior. I want it to be flush. I don't want it to be skewed at the side compared to how the axle goes, and that's also affected by the left hand side cup. They both put some pressure preload on the axle, so they need to be in line, and the faces of the frame need to be at 90 degrees angle compared to the axle. That's the whole point. That is what matters. Otherwise, you get premature bearing load, bearing wear, because there's uneven load. And here, what I'm doing is just unscrewing the guides, and I'm screwing in some cups. These are Holotech. I won't be using those, but I want to see if they just screw in smoothly, and if the right hand side cup really aligns when I screw it in. So it looks good, and this was. I also showed some pictures of trying to restore some parts in similar. And that's the whole video. I hope it helps you at least to a degree, and we'll upload the first video where we disassemble the whole bicycle. I'll do that as soon as I find the time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in some other video. Cheers!